The stars burned with the light of war across the galaxy. Ships exploded in silent flashes while entire worlds trembled under the weight of orbital bombardments. The Great Convergence War had been raging for 3 years now, and it showed no signs of ending. In the Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council, Ambassador Lee Hanna stood before representatives of 200 species. Her black hair was pulled back in a simple style, and her dark eyes remained calm as angry voices filled the air around her. The chamber itself was a marvel of alien engineering, with gravity fields allowing delegates from different worlds to exist in the same space, despite their varied atmospheric needs. "The hegemony grows stronger each day," declared Ambassador Quileth, her blue-scaled face showing deep concern. The Free Worlds Alliance representative had been pushing for Earth's support for months. "Your neutrality serves no one, Ambassador Lee. Innocent worlds burn while Earth watches from the sidelines." From across the chamber, a different voice responded. Supreme Commander Vorthak's mechanical translator gave his words a cold metallic tone. "The human speaks of neutrality yet trades with our enemies. This is not neutrality. This is cowardice disguised as principle." Lee Hanna remained standing in the center of the chamber, her hands clasped behind her back. She had heard these arguments countless times before. Around her, the various alien species watched with different types of eyes. Some with compound vision, others with heat sensors, and a few with electromagnetic perception. Despite their differences, they all showed the same expression: frustration with humanity's refusal to choose a side. "Honored delegates," Lee Hanna began, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber's translation systems. "Earth's position has not changed. We trade with all peaceful species. We offer aid to refugees regardless of their origin. We maintain diplomatic relations with every government that respects our sovereignty. This is true neutrality." A growl came from the hegemony section. Commander Korath, Vorthak's lieutenant, stepped forward. His species resembled large bears, but with 6 arms and metallic implants covering half their bodies. "Your neutrality insults the natural order. The strong must lead, the weak must follow. There is no third option." "Perhaps," Lee Hanna replied calmly, "but Earth will continue to seek that third option until it proves impossible." Back on Earth, Admiral Park Jun watched the council session from his office in the Stellar Defense Command. The building sat on a hill overlooking the Pacific Ocean, where massive cargo ships moved between Earth and the orbital stations above. Through his window, he could see the launch trails of vessels heading to the outer colonies. Park Jun was a man in his 50s, with gray beginning to show in his black hair. His uniform was simple blue, without the elaborate decorations that many alien militaries favored. On his desk sat reports from captains throughout human space, each one describing the same thing: increased alien military activity near human territories. His aide, Major Yang Hyo, entered the office carrying a data pad. She was young for her rank, having earned rapid promotion through her work in intelligence analysis. "Admiral, we have new reports from the border patrols. 3 more incidents this week." Park Jun took the pad and read quickly. Captain Choi Dae's vessel, the Terra's Shield, had encountered a hegemony patrol ship that had accidentally crossed into human space. Captain Nam Somin reported free world ships conducting navigation exercises, uncomfortably close to the Centauri colonies. Another captain described alien vessels scanning human cargo ships with military-grade sensors. "They're testing us," Park Jun said quietly. "Both sides want to know how we'll react." "Should I send new orders to the patrol captains?" Yang Hyo asked. "No, tell them to continue following current protocols. Polite but firm. No escalation unless directly threatened." Park Jun set down the pad and looked out at the ocean again. "But make sure all ships are running full sensor sweeps. I want to know about every alien vessel within 10 light-years of human space." Far from Earth, Captain Choi Dae stood on the bridge of the Terra's Shield as it patrolled the outer edge of human territory. The ship was officially classified as a patrol vessel, designed for customs enforcement and search and rescue operations. Its crew of 43 humans worked quietly at their stations, monitoring space traffic and communication channels. Choi Dae was a career officer, someone who had joined the Stellar Defense Force when humanity first reached the stars. He remembered when meeting an alien species was cause for celebration, not suspicion. Now his ship's sensors tracked dozens of military vessels every day, all of them belonging to species at war with each other. "Captain," called Lieutenant Oh Seung from the communications station, We're receiving a broadcast from the Hegemony Fleet in Sector 7. They're warning all neutral vessels to avoid their operational area. How large is their operational area? Choide asked. Approximately half of this star system, sir. Choide walked to the navigation display and studied the holographic map floating above the console. Red markers showed hegemony positions, while blue markers indicated Free World's forces. Both sides had significantly increased their presence near human space in recent months. Set course for the edge of their claimed area, he ordered. Standard patrol speed. We have every right to travel through open space. The Terra's shield moved through the darkness between stars, its hull reflecting the distant light of the system's primary sun. To any observer, it looked like exactly what it claimed to be, a peaceful patrol vessel going about routine duties. The ship's weapons were minimal, its armor light, and its crew trained primarily in non-violent conflict resolution. On Earth, Dr. Kim Sora worked late in her laboratory at the Xenological Studies Institute. The building buzzed with activity even at night, as researchers from around the world collaborated on understanding the dozens of alien species humanity had encountered. Holographic displays showed alien technologies, biological structures, and cultural patterns. Dr. Kim was reviewing data from refugee interviews when her assistant brought her a cup of tea. Doctor, the analysis of the hegemony weapon fragments is complete. She looked up from her work, pushing a strand of hair from her eyes. As the Institute's director, she had access to every piece of alien technology that entered human space. Officially, her team studied these items to better understand alien cultures and improve diplomatic relations. Unofficially, she knew that knowledge could serve other purposes if needed. What did we learn? She asked. Their energy weapons use a quantum resonance pattern that's actually quite inefficient. We could improve the design by at least 30% with current human technology. Also, their armor plating has a weakness to certain electromagnetic frequencies. Dr. Kim nodded and made notes in her personal files. Continue the analysis, but keep the results classified. And send a copy to Admiral Park's office. Yes, Doctor. Should I also analyze the Free World's technology samples? Of course. Knowledge is never wasted, even if we hope never to use it. In his private residence, President Yoon Min-ho met with his closest advisors. The room was simple, decorated with items representing Earth's many cultures. A painting of Korean mountains hung next to African sculptures and European artwork. The president believed that humanity's strength came from its diversity, and his office reflected that philosophy. The pressure is increasing, reported his chief of staff. Both the hegemony and free worlds are making stronger demands for our support. Their ambassadors request meetings almost daily. President Yoon was a thoughtful man who had led Earth through the early years of galactic contact. He understood that every decision he made would affect not just Earth, but all of humanity's colonies throughout known space. What does public opinion show? Split, as always. 40% want to support the free worlds. 30% prefer neutrality. 20% think we should negotiate with the hegemony, and 10% want to avoid aliens entirely. And our colonies? The outer colonies lean toward the free worlds. They value independence. The inner colonies prefer neutrality for economic reasons. The military colony, the aide paused. The military colonies want to fight, but they're not particular about which side we fight. President Yoon walked to the window and looked up at the night sky. Somewhere among those stars, human ships patrolled the borders of space that contained 30 billion human lives. Continue our current policy. Neutrality serves us well for now. Sir, may I ask why you seem so confident in our neutrality? The report suggests that both sides are preparing to pressure us more directly. The president smiled slightly. Because neutrality has given us something neither side possesses, the ability to study both of them without commitment. We know their strengths, their weaknesses, their technologies, and their tactics. If neutrality becomes impossible, he paused, well, we'll be ready for whatever comes next. Back in space, Captain Choide's ship approached the edge of the hegemony's claimed operational area. The alien fleet was visible on long-range sensors, 12 heavy cruisers and a dreadnought, all positioned around a strategic jump point that connected this system to Free World's territory. Captain, reported Lieutenant O from communications, the hegemony fleet is hailing us. Put them through. The main screen flickered to show the bridge of a hegemony cruiser. Commander Korath. 3 months after the incident with Commander Korath, the galaxy grew darker. Every week brought news of another world falling to one side or the other. The free worlds had lost the mining colonies of Helix Prime. The hegemony had retreated from the agricultural systems near Vega. Millions of refugees fled the fighting, their ships carrying the desperate hope of finding safety somewhere among the stars. Many of those ships turned toward human space. Dr. Kim Sora stood in the medical bay of Refugee Processing Station Alpha, watching human doctors work alongside alien medics to treat the wounded. The station orbited Earth's moon, originally built as a research facility but quickly converted when the refugee crisis began. Through the large windows, she could see dozens of ships waiting for permission to dock, each one filled with families who had lost everything. Dr. Kim called Nurse Lee Ji-won, a young woman who had volunteered to work with alien refugees despite having no previous experience with non-human biology. The Krathi family in Bay 7 is asking for you. Dr. Kim followed the nurse through corridors filled with temporary shelters. The Krathi were a peaceful species known for their skill at growing food in harsh environments. Their homeworld had been caught between advancing hegemony and free world's fleets, turning their fertile valleys into battlefields. In Bay 7, she found Patriarch Kelmar tending to his injured daughter. The Krathi looked like large, intelligent birds with feathers that changed color based on their emotions. Right now, Kelmar's feathers showed the deep blue of profound sadness. Dr. Kim, the alien said through his translator device, I must thank your species again. Without human aid, my family would have died in space. We're glad we could help, Dr. Kim replied. She had learned that the simplest responses often worked best when dealing with traumatized refugees. How is your daughter feeling? Better. Your medical techniques work well with our biology, but I must ask, why do humans help everyone? The hegemony offers safety to those who serve them. The free worlds promise protection to their allies, but humans help even their enemies. Dr. Kim considered the question carefully. She had been asked similar things by dozens of refugee species. Because helping others is the right thing to do. We don't help you because we expect something in return. We help because you need help. Kelmar's feathers shifted to a lighter blue, indicating confusion. This is why many species do not understand humans. You show kindness to all, but strength to none. In this war, such behavior seems dangerous. Perhaps, Dr. Kim said quietly, but it's who we are. Back on Earth, Major Yang Hyo presented her weekly intelligence briefing to Admiral Park Jun. The data painted a troubling picture of increasing military pressure around human territories. Hegemony. Forces have tripled their presence in our border regions, she reported, pointing to the holographic display that showed ship movements throughout local space. They're claiming it's necessary for operational security, but their deployment suggests they're preparing for major operations. What about the free worlds? Park Jun asked. Similar pattern but different excuse. They say they're protecting trade routes from hegemony raiders. Both sides are building up forces and we're caught in the middle. Park Jun studied the display, noting how alien fleets had positioned themselves around human space like pieces on a game board. Any direct threats? Not yet, but the pressure is increasing. Captain Choi Dae reports daily encounters with ships from both sides. They're testing our responses, learning our patrol patterns and mapping our defensive positions. And our defensive positions are? Yang Hyo smiled grimly. According to our official reports, minimal. A few patrol ships, some orbital defense platforms, and the usual civilian traffic control systems. Good. Let them think we're unprepared. What about the asteroid mining operations? Proceeding on schedule. We now have 47 mining stations throughout the outer system, all equipped with the standard industrial equipment. Yang Hyo's emphasis on standard made it clear that the equipment was anything but standard. Park Jun nodded. For months, human ships had been establishing mining operations on asteroids throughout the Sol system and around every human colony. To outside observers, it looked like an economic boom driven by alien demand for rare minerals. In reality, each mining station was a hidden military base, stocked with weapons, supplies, and ships that officially didn't exist. Continue monitoring alien movements. If either side starts massing forces for a major operation, I want to know immediately. Captain Choi Dae was having a bad day. The Terra's shield had encountered 6 different alien ships in the past 12 hours, each one pushing the boundaries of acceptable behavior. A Free Worlds cruiser had accidentally activated its targeting systems while passing near a human cargo convoy. A hegemony patrol had demanded to inspect human ships for contraband weapons. Most recently, A mixed squadron of alien vessels had conducted training exercises that looked remarkably like practice attacks on human installations. "Captain," reported Lieutenant Oseung from the communication station, "we're receiving another message from the Hegemony fleet. They want to discuss mutual security arrangements." "Put Commander Koroth through," Choi Dae said with resignation. The alien commander appeared on the main screen. His 6 arms arranged in what humans had learned was a gesture of barely contained impatience. "Captain Choi, your continued neutrality serves no purpose. The free worlds prepare to attack through your space. We must establish defensive positions on your worlds to protect both our species. Commander, human space remains neutral territory. We don't allow any military forces to establish permanent positions in our systems." "This is foolishness," Koroth replied, his mechanical implants whirring with agitation. "War comes whether you choose it or not. The wise prepare, the foolish perish. We appreciate your concern for our safety," Choi Dae said diplomatically, "but Earth's position remains unchanged." After the transmission ended, his first officer, Lieutenant Commander Nam So-min, approached his station. She was a skilled officer who had served on patrol ships for 8 years, watching the gradual deterioration of galactic peace. "Captain, permission to speak freely?" "Always, Commander. How long can we keep this up?" "Every day they get more aggressive. Eventually someone's going to do something that forces us to choose sides." Choi Dae looked at the tactical display showing alien ship positions around his patrol area. Red and blue markers indicated hostile fleets that grew larger every week. "As long as we have to, Commander. Our orders are clear. Maintain neutrality until it becomes impossible. And when it becomes impossible? Then we follow our secondary orders." Nam So-min nodded. Every human ship captain had received secondary orders sealed in classified files. She didn't know what those orders contained, but she suspected they would be very different from the peaceful diplomatic protocols they currently followed. On Earth, President Yoon Min-ho met with his Security Council in a room deep beneath the government complex. The chamber was shielded against all forms of surveillance, allowing them to speak freely about subjects that could never be discussed in public. "The reports are unanimous," his defense minister said. "Both sides are preparing for major operations in our region of space. Intelligence suggests they're planning to use our territories as staging areas for attacks against each other." "Timeline?" the president asked. "Weeks, not months. The free worlds think the hegemony will move first. The hegemony thinks the free worlds are preparing a surprise attack. Both sides want to control human space to prevent the other from using it." President Yoon turned to his science advisor. "Dr. Kim, are we ready?" Dr. Kim consulted her personal data pad, reviewing months of careful preparation. "The technology integration is complete. Our defensive systems are online but hidden. The refugee crisis has actually helped us. We've learned the weaknesses of dozens of species while treating their wounded." "Admiral Park, all ships are in position. All crews are trained. All equipment is functional. We can maintain our current posture indefinitely, or we can transition to full military readiness within hours." "Good." President Yoon stood and walked to a wall display that showed human space and the surrounding star systems. Blue and red markers indicated the positions of hundreds of alien warships, all of them growing closer to human territories. "Continue current policies. No provocation, no escalation, but full readiness for any scenario." "Sir," his foreign minister said carefully, "both sides are demanding formal meetings to discuss our future cooperation. How long can we delay without appearing openly hostile?" "As long as necessary. Neutrality isn't passive. It's an active choice that requires constant effort to maintain. We've chosen this path because it serves humanity's interests. When it no longer serves those interests, we'll choose a different path." In the outer system, hidden among the asteroid mining stations, Commander Lee Ji-won supervised the final preparations of what the official records called Industrial Platform 7. The station looked like any other mining operation, cargo ships moving refined metals, processing equipment humming with activity, and workers in environmental suits maintaining the machinery. But beneath the industrial facade lay something very different. The platform's core contained enough weapons to outfit a small fleet. Its processing. The attack came without warning. Captain Choi Dae was reviewing the evidence from the convoy investigation when the Terra's shield's proximity alarms began screaming. Lieutenant Oh-seung's hands moved rapidly across his console as dozens of new contacts appeared on the tactical display. Captain, massive fleet emerging from hyperspace. Configuration matches Hegemony Heavy Assault Formation. 67 ships including a dreadnought. Choi Dae felt his blood turn cold. A fleet that size could only have one purpose: invasion. Distance to Earth? 4 hours at standard approach speed, sir. Signal Earth immediately. Full priority alert. Then get me a communication channel to the Hegemony flagship. The main screen flickered to show Admiral Koroth standing on the bridge of his dreadnought. Behind him, dozens of crew members worked at weapons consoles, their mechanical implants glowing with activation sequences. Captain Choi Dae, Koroth said, his 6 arms spread in a gesture of absolute authority. I trust you recognize the futility of resistance. The Hegemony requires the use of human space for strategic operations against the free worlds. You will order all human vessels to stand down and prepare for occupation. Admiral, Choi Dae replied, keeping his voice steady despite the fear racing through his mind. Earth is neutral territory. No military operations are permitted in our space by any faction. Neutrality is a luxury for the strong human. Your species has shown weakness for too long. We will establish bases on your worlds and use your resources to end this war. Resistance will result in the complete destruction of human civilization. I cannot authorize what you're asking. You'll need to speak with Earth's government directly. Koroth's mechanical implants whirred with what sounded like amusement. There is nothing to discuss. My fleet will reach Earth in 4 hours. Your government will surrender or your world will burn. This is the natural order of things. The transmission ended, leaving Choi Dae staring at a tactical display that showed his small patrol ship, surrounded by enough firepower to destroy entire star systems. Around him, his crew worked quietly at their stations, following emergency protocols they had practiced but hoped never to use. Lieutenant Commander Nam, he said to his first officer, signal all human ships in this system. Tell them to withdraw to minimum safe distance but maintain observation positions. Sir, shouldn't we evacuate completely? Choi Dae walked to his command chair and activated a sealed console that had remained locked throughout his career. Inside was a data chip containing orders that every human ship captain carried, but had never expected to use. No, Commander. We have new orders now. On Earth, Admiral Park Jun stood in the Stellar Defense Command Center, watching the main display track the approaching Hegemony fleet. Around him, dozens of officers coordinated humanity's response to its first existential threat since reaching the stars. All mining stations report ready, Major Yang Hyo announced. Hidden fleet elements are powering up. Orbital defense platforms are coming online. Civilian evacuations? Proceeding according to plan. All non-essential personnel are being moved to the outer colonies. Essential personnel are relocating to hardened facilities. Park Jun nodded and opened a secure channel to President Yoon Min-ho. Mr. President, we have confirmation. The Hegemony fleet is definitely heading for Earth with hostile intent. Estimated arrival in 3 hours and 40 minutes. Are we ready, Admiral? Yes, sir. All defensive systems are operational. All personnel are at their assigned positions. We're as ready as we can be. Then transmit our response. Across the galaxy, every government, news service, and military command received the same message simultaneously. President Yoon Min-ho appeared on billions of screens, his face calm but his eyes showing steel determination. Citizens of Earth and people of the galaxy, he began. For 3 years, humanity has maintained strict neutrality in the Great Convergence War. We have traded fairly with all species, offered aid to all refugees, and sought peaceful solutions to every dispute. The camera pulled back to show the president standing in front of a wall display, showing the approaching Hegemony fleet. Today, that neutrality has been violated. The Hegemony has sent a fleet to invade Earth and occupy our worlds. Their admiral has demanded our surrender and threatened to destroy our civilization if we resist. President Yoon stepped closer to the camera, his voice taking on a tone that no human had ever heard from their leader before. Earth remained neutral as long as neutrality was respected. That time has ended. To the Hegemony fleet approaching our world, you have made a grave error. Humanity's neutrality was never weakness. It was a choice. You have taken that choice away from us. The transmission ended, leaving the galaxy in stunned silence. Within minutes, every intelligence service was frantically analyzing the brief speech, trying to understand what humanity planned to do against a fleet that outnumbered their known forces by more than 20 to 1. They didn't have to wait long to find out. In the asteroid belt, Mining Station 7 suddenly bloomed with new energy signatures. What had appeared to be a simple industrial facility revealed itself as a military base bristling with weapons. Similar transformations occurred throughout the Sol system as 47 mining stations dropped their disguises and activated defensive systems that should not have existed. Captain Choi Day watched the transformation from his position at the edge of the system. The Terra's shield had received new orders, new weapons configurations, and new crew assignments. His ship, which the hegemony had dismissed as a harmless patrol vessel, now showed its true nature. "All systems green, Captain," reported Lieutenant O from his new position at the tactical console. "Weapons online, shields at maximum, stealth systems active. Very good. Signal the fleet. Execute Operation Sleeping Dragon." Throughout human space, ships that had been hiding among asteroids, behind moons, and in the shadows of planets suddenly appeared on sensors. The human fleet that emerged bore no resemblance to the peaceful exploration vessels that aliens had grown accustomed to seeing. These were warships, purpose-built for combat and incorporating the best technologies from every species humanity had encountered. Admiral Koroth stood on his dreadnought's bridge, watching the tactical display with growing disbelief. Where his intelligence had shown a lightly defended system with minimal military assets, he now saw a defensive network that rivaled anything in the galaxy. "Sir," his tactical officer reported, "we're detecting over 300 human vessels, all showing military-grade weapons and shielding. Energy signatures suggest technology equivalent to our own." "Impossible," Koroth growled. "Human ships are merchant vessels and patrol craft. They have no military industry, no weapons development, no—" His words were cut off as the Terra's shield appeared directly in front of his fleet, no longer running with the configuration of a patrol vessel. Captain Choi Day's ship now bristled with weapons that Koroth recognized as advanced versions of hegemony designs. "Hegemony fleet," came Choi Day's voice over the communication channel. "This is your final warning. Withdraw from human space immediately or face the consequences. You dare threaten us with a single ship?" Koroth snarled. "Not a single ship, Admiral. All of them." The space around the hegemony fleet suddenly filled with human vessels. They emerged from stealth systems, dropped out of hyperspace, and rose from planetary shadows. In moments, Koroth's invasion fleet found itself surrounded by a force that matched its numbers and appeared to exceed its technological capabilities. "This is impossible," Koroth's tactical officer whispered. "Where did they come from? How did they hide so many ships?" But Koroth was beginning to understand. For 3 years, human merchants had visited every hegemony world, studying their technology and learning their weaknesses. Human diplomats had attended every military briefing, gaining access to tactical doctrines and strategic plans. Human doctors had treated hegemony wounded, learning the physiology and psychology of his species. Humanity's neutrality hadn't been passive withdrawal from galactic affairs. It had been active intelligence gathering on an unprecedented scale. "Admiral," his communications officer reported, "we're receiving targeting data from the human ships. They're painting us with sensor locks that our systems can't break." Koroth looked at his tactical display and saw the impossible. Human ships using weapons and tactics that combined the best features of both hegemony and free world's technology, refined and improved beyond what either side had achieved alone. "Open a channel to the human captain," he ordered. Captain Choi Day appeared on his screen, no longer the polite patrol officer who had deflected diplomatic protests for months. This was a military commander prepared for war. "Admiral Koroth," Choi Day said calmly, "you came here believing that human neutrality indicated weakness. You were wrong. We remained neutral because it allowed us to study everyone else's strengths and weaknesses. We traded with all sides because it gave us access to all technologies. We helped refugees because it taught us how to exploit the vulnerabilities of every species." "You deceived us," Koroth accused. "We were honest about our capabilities. We simply didn't advertise them. Now you have a choice. Withdraw your fleet and return to hegemony space, or discover exactly how much we learned during our 3 years of careful neutrality." Koroth studied his tactical situation. His fleet was... The galaxy watched in stunned silence as humanity revealed its true nature. Within hours of the hegemony fleet's withdrawal from Earth, human warships appeared in star systems across known space. They emerged from hiding places that intelligence services had never detected, using stealth technology that made them invisible to alien sensors until they chose to reveal themselves. Admiral Park Jun stood in the war room beneath Seoul, coordinating the largest military operation in human history. The holographic display showed human forces moving throughout the galaxy, each one following carefully planned routes toward strategic objectives that had been selected months in advance. "Status report," he ordered. Major Yang Hyo consulted her datapad. "First wave deployments are complete. Admiral Choi Dae's task force has secured the Helix mining colonies. Commander Lee Ji-won's squadron is en route to the vegan agricultural systems. Captain Nam So-min's fleet has established positions around the refugee processing stations. Resistance? Minimal. Most hegemony forces are withdrawing rather than engage our ships directly. The free worlds are requesting conferences to avoid accidental conflicts. Both sides seem more interested in talking than fighting." Park Jun nodded. The psychological impact of humanity's revelation was proving as valuable as their military capabilities. For 3 years, both sides had dismissed humans as weak neutrals. Now they faced an opponent whose true strength was unknown but clearly formidable. "What about our primary objectives?" "Liberation operations are proceeding on schedule. The slave worlds, the prison colonies, the forced labor camps, we're hitting them all simultaneously. The aliens don't know which targets to defend because we're attacking everywhere at once." In the Tau Ceti system, Captain Choi Dae led a fleet of 12 human warships toward the hegemony's primary weapons manufacturing facility. The planet below had been conquered 18 months ago, its population forced to work in factories producing military equipment for the hegemony war machine. "Captain," reported Lieutenant O from the tactical station, "the orbital defense platforms are powering up." "Looks like they intend to fight. Signal the planet," Choi Dae ordered. "Let them know we're here to liberate their people, not conquer their world." The communication channel opened to show a hegemony commander whose mechanical implants covered most of his face. "Human vessel, you are interfering with legitimate hegemony operations. Withdraw immediately or face destruction." "Commander," Choi Dae replied calmly, "we're here to free the enslaved workers on your planet. Stand down your defenses and allow us to evacuate them peacefully. The workers are prisoners of war, property of the hegemony state. You have no authority here." "Actually, we do." Choi Dae gestured to his tactical officer, who activated targeting systems that painted every hegemony installation with weapons locks, by the authority of basic decency and superior firepower. The human fleet moved into attack formation, their ships dancing through space with coordination that amazed the alien defenders. Where hegemony vessels relied on brute force and heavy armor, human ships used speed, agility, and tactical innovation to achieve their objectives. The battle lasted 37 minutes. When it ended, the hegemony orbital platforms were debris, their fleet was scattered, and 50,000 enslaved workers were boarding human rescue ships for transport to safety. Similar scenes played out across the galaxy as human forces struck at targets that both the hegemony and free worlds had considered secure. Prison worlds that had held political dissidents for years were liberated overnight. Forced labor colonies saw their guards flee as human ships appeared in orbit. Refugee camps that had been under threat from both sides suddenly found themselves under human protection. Dr. Kim Sora monitored the operations from her command center at the Xenological Institute. The research facility had been transformed into a coordination hub for humanitarian operations, using the detailed knowledge of alien societies that her teams had gathered during 3 years of refugee assistance. "Doctor," her assistant reported, "we're receiving evacuation requests from 17 different species. Word is spreading that humans are offering protection to anyone fleeing the war zones." "Approve them all," Dr. Kim ordered. "Every ship we can spare. Every station that can hold refugees. Every colony that can provide shelter. We're not just fighting a war, we're showing the galaxy what we stand for. The logistics are staggering. We're talking about millions of displaced beings, dozens of different biological requirements, hundreds of cultural and religious needs." Dr. Kim smiled. 3 years ago, that would have been impossible. Today we have detailed profiles of every species, complete biological and cultural databases, and supply networks that span the galaxy. Our neutrality taught us how to help everyone. Now we use that knowledge to save everyone, On the hegemony capital world, Supreme Commander Vorthak met with his military council in an emergency session. The holographic displays showed the catastrophic results of humanity's first military operations. Strategic installations captured, slave worlds liberated, and hegemony forces retreating across multiple fronts. How is this possible? Vorthak demanded. Our intelligence reported that humans had minimal military capabilities. Merchant vessels, patrol ships, research stations, nothing that could threaten serious military operations. General Kex Moore, his chief intelligence officer, activated a detailed analysis of human operations. Sir, it appears that every human civilian operation was a cover for military preparation. Their merchant ships were gathering intelligence on our technology and tactics. Their research stations were analyzing our weaknesses. Their patrol vessels were mapping our defensive positions. For how long? Based on the sophistication of their operations, at least 3 years. Possibly longer. They've been preparing for this war since before they declared neutrality. Vorthak studied the tactical displays showing human ship movements. The attacks were too coordinated, too precise, and too effective to be improvised. This was the result of extensive planning and preparation. What are their objectives? Unclear, sir. They're not attempting to conquer territory or establish permanent bases. They liberate target worlds, evacuate the populations, and withdraw. It's as if they're more interested in saving lives than winning battles. No military force operates without strategic objectives. What do they gain from these operations? General Kex Moore highlighted several star systems on the tactical display. Support, sir. Every species they've helped is now declaring for humanity. Every world they've liberated is offering alliance. Every refugee they've saved is volunteering to fight alongside them. Vorthak realized the true scope of humanity's strategy. They weren't trying to defeat the hegemony through military conquest. They were building a coalition of grateful species who would support human leadership in galactic affairs. Order. All commands to avoid direct engagement with human forces until we understand their full capabilities. And send a message to their president. I want to negotiate. President Yoon Minho received similar requests from leaders throughout the galaxy. The Free Worlds Alliance wanted to discuss formal military cooperation. Neutral species sought protection agreements. Even some hegemony member states were secretly requesting humanitarian assistance for their populations. In his office, the president met with his senior advisors to plan humanity's response to the diplomatic flood. Everyone wants to talk, his foreign minister reported. 67 governments have requested formal meetings in the past 24 hours. The Galactic Council has called an emergency session to address the human question. What's our position? President Yoon asked. We're willing to meet with any government that recognizes our right to protect innocent civilians and maintain galactic peace. We're not interested in conquest, territorial expansion, or joining existing power blocks. We want to end this war and establish a new framework for galactic governance. Admiral Park joined the meeting via secure communication from the Military Command Center. Mr. President, our operations are succeeding beyond expectations. We've liberated 43 worlds, evacuated over 2 million refugees, and established humanitarian aid stations in 37 star systems. Both sides are requesting ceasefires to allow negotiations. Casualties? Remarkably light. Human forces, 17 wounded, no fatalities. Enemy forces, approximately 3,000 casualties, mostly during evacuation operations when they attempted to prevent civilian rescues. Why so few? Because we're not trying to kill them, sir. We're trying to make them irrelevant. Every world we liberate reduces their recruiting base. Every refugee we save becomes a potential ally. Every successful operation demonstrates that their way of conducting war is obsolete. President Yoon considered the reports from across the galaxy. In less than a week, humanity had transformed from neutral observers to the dominant military force in galactic affairs. But more importantly, they had demonstrated a different approach to warfare, one focused on protection rather than destruction. Schedule the negotiations, he decided, but make our conditions clear. Any government that wants to work with humanity must commit to ending military operations against civilian populations, providing humanitarian aid to all refugees regardless of species, and participating in a new galactic governance structure based on cooperatio. 2 years after humanity abandoned neutrality, the galaxy was transformed beyond recognition. The Great Convergence War had ended not with the victory of either faction, but with the emergence of a new power that made the old conflict irrelevant. President Yoon Minho stood in the Assembly Hall of New Geneva Station, addressing the first session of the Galactic Cooperative Council. The massive space station orbited a neutral star system, built by combined human and alien efforts to serve as the new center of galactic governance. Representatives from over 300 species filled the chamber, many of them worlds that had been liberated by human forces during the final year of the war. Delegates of the Galactic Cooperative, President Yoon began, his words translated into hundreds of languages simultaneously. We gather here not as conquerors and conquered, but as partners in building a better future for all species. In the audience, former enemies sat side by side. Ambassador Quileth of the Free Worlds Alliance shared a section with General Kexmore of the former hegemony. Both governments had collapsed as their member species defected to the human-led coalition that offered protection without domination. For 3 years, President Yoon continued, this galaxy suffered under the delusion that strength meant the ability to destroy, that security required the subjugation of others, and that peace could only come through victory. Humanity offers a different vision: strength through cooperation, security through mutual aid, and peace through justice. The transformation had not been easy. Supreme Commander Vorthak had died fighting to the last, refusing to accept that his empire of fear could be replaced by voluntary cooperation. Some Free Worlds commanders had attempted terrorist attacks on human installations, unable to understand why their natural allies would oppose their liberation campaigns. But species after species had abandoned the old factions as human relief efforts demonstrated the benefits of the new approach. Dr. Kim Sora watched the proceedings from the observation deck, surrounded by the fruits of her life's work. The xenological databases that her teams had compiled during humanity's neutral years had become the foundation for the most extensive humanitarian network in galactic history. Every species' needs were understood, every culture's values were respected, and every population's safety was guaranteed, Doctor, her assistant said quietly. The final casualty reports are in from the liberation campaigns. Dr. Kim reviewed the data with mixed emotions. In 18 months of military operations, human forces had freed over 400 worlds, evacuated 27 million refugees, and established peace in 43 star systems. The cost had been remarkably light, fewer than 3,000 human casualties and minimal destruction of infrastructure. What made the difference? Her assistant asked. Knowledge, Dr. Kim replied. We spent 3 years learning how every species thinks, what they fear, what they value, and what they need to survive. When we went to war, we weren't fighting aliens. We were protecting neighbors. Admiral Park Jun reviewed the final strategic assessments from his command center on Earth. The hidden military infrastructure that had shocked the galaxy was being converted to peaceful purposes. Mining stations became research facilities. Weapons factories were retooled to produce medical equipment. Warships were modified for exploration and humanitarian missions. Admiral, Major Yang Hyo reported, the integration of former hegemony and Free World's military units is proceeding ahead of schedule. Turns out that most of their personnel were fighting because they had no choice, not because they believed in their government's causes. What about the remaining holdouts? Isolated pockets of resistance, mostly die-hard ideologues who can't accept that the war is over. The hegemony remnant controls maybe 20 systems in the outer rim. The Free World's resistance has perhaps a dozen hidden bases. Either faction has significant military capability. Park Jun nodded. The old powers had collapsed not through military defeat but through mass defection. When species were offered protection without conquest, aid without political conditions, and representation without domination, they abandoned their former allegiances in massive numbers. Continue monitoring the holdouts, but don't engage unless they threaten civilian populations. Eventually, they'll realize that their old way of thinking has no place in the new galaxy. Captain Choi Dae, now Admiral Choi Dae, commanded the Galactic Peace Corps from his flagship, the New Terra. The vessel had been built using technologies from dozens of species, each contributing their best innovations to create a ship dedicated to protecting rather than destroying. Admiral, reported his communications officer, we're receiving a distress call from the Rigel system. Unknown vessels are attacking civilian shipping. Course and speed to intercept. Signal the local Peace Corps stations. We need full coverage of the system. The Peace Corps had become the galaxy's primary security force, with ships and personnel drawn from every member species of the cooperative. Former enemies worked side by side, united by the common goal of protecting innocent life rather than advancing political causes. As the new Terra approached Rigel, Choi Day reviewed the tactical situation. The attacking vessel showed hegemony remnant configuration, but their behavior suggested desperation rather than military strategy. "Open a channel to the attacking ships," he ordered. The main screen showed a familiar face. Commander Koroth, the hegemony officer who had tried to invade Earth 2 years earlier. But the alien looked different now, thinner with mechanical implants showing signs of poor maintenance. "Admiral Choi Day," Koroth said, his voice lacking its former authority. "We meet again, Commander Koroth. What are you doing in cooperative space?" "Surviving. The old empire is dead, human. My people have no worlds, no supplies, no hope. We take what we need to live. By attacking civilian ships? What choice do we have? The new order has no place for those who served the hegemony. We are outcasts in the galaxy we once ruled." Choi Day studied the alien commander whose fleet had once threatened to destroy human civilization. 2 years of warfare had reduced the proud hegemony to scattered bands of refugees, surviving by raiding the shipping lanes they had once controlled. "Commander, there's always a choice. The cooperative offers amnesty to all former military personnel who renounce violence against civilians. Full pardons, relocation assistance, and employment opportunities in the Peace Corps. You would trust former enemies with weapons and authority? We trust people who choose to protect rather than destroy. Your past loyalty to the hegemony doesn't matter. Your future commitment to peace does." Koroth was silent for long minutes, considering an offer that would have been impossible under the old galactic order. Finally, he spoke. "What guarantees do we have that this isn't a trap? My word as a fellow soldier, and the fact that we're offering the same terms to everyone, regardless of their past allegiances." One by one, Koroth's ships powered down their weapons and prepared to surrender. The last organized remnant of the hegemony military chose cooperation over continued resistance. Ambassador Lee Hanna, now Secretary General of the Galactic Cooperative, met with representatives from the final holdout governments. The Free World's resistance had requested negotiations, finally acknowledging that their cause had become irrelevant. "Secretary General," said former President Quileth, her blue scale showing the pale color of resignation, "we're prepared to discuss terms for ending our resistance operations." "There are no terms to discuss," Lee Hanna replied gently. "The cooperative doesn't require surrender, only a commitment to peaceful coexistence. Your people are welcome to join us, maintain independence, or establish their own governments. The only requirement is that you respect the rights of other species to make their own choices. That's all. No reparations, no war crimes trials, no forced integration. Would those things serve any useful purpose? The goal isn't punishment, it's peace." Quileth struggled to understand a victory that included rather than excluded the defeated. "Why do humans show such mercy to their enemies?" "Because you were never really our enemies," Lee Hanna explained. "You were the products of a system that forced everyone to choose between domination and submission. We've replaced that system with one based on cooperation and mutual respect." The negotiations concluded with the Free World's resistance, agreeing to abandon military operations and participate in the cooperative's governance structure. Like the hegemony before them, they discovered that humanity offered something more attractive than victory: the opportunity to build rather than destroy. President Yoon Minho concluded his address to the Galactic Council with words that would be remembered as the founding principles of the new order. For too long, this galaxy has operated on the principle that might makes right, that the strong should rule the weak, and that peace is merely the temporary absence of war. Today we reject those principles and embrace new ones, that strength serves justice, that leadership means service, and that true peace comes from ensuring that all species have the opportunity to thrive. The assembly erupted in applause from hundreds of species, each one representing worlds that had chosen cooperation over conflict. The Great Convergence War was officially over, not through military victory but through the simple recognition that there was a better way to organize galactic